What's up, everybody? Broman here, got another video for you. This time flying out a requested plane. This plane was requested quite a while back, and I apologize for just now getting around to getting it out. With school starting back up for me and work starting back up after the holidays, it's just been very difficult for me to find the time to even play War Thunder, much less record a video about it. So I apologize for that, but here it is, finally, in all of its splendor and glory. This is the P-38J. Someone requested that I fly out the P-38s, so that's what I did. I've struggled with this plane, I'm not going to lie. It has some pretty serious weaknesses, the most serious of which, I think, is its damage model. It has the worst damage model of just about any plane in the game. And it's so large, it has such a huge silhouette that it is incredibly easy to hit this thing from any distance away. And, I mean, if you just sneeze in the direction of this plane from 1 kilometer away, it will detonate and explode into a ball of flames. So, I have struggled with that, and that has not made it easy to get good content, or get good matches to make good content for you guys. So this was one of the matches, though, where things kind of did work out for me, and I think that I am going to be able to put together some things to show you that you might enjoy and that you might learn from. So to set up this match, it is right now well, there's 2 friendlies there. One of them is about to die here in a few seconds. So it's basically a 2 versus their entire team match right now. My entire team, except for the one remaining P-51 that's up here with me, has died. And literally not a single one of them has. Yeah, I'm not going to win this. So don't expect that out of this video. That's like way too much. But I do get a few kills before they take me down, and I think that I can showcase some pretty good maneuvers and some pretty good tactics that maybe you didn't know you could do, or that maybe you'll enjoy seeing. So, this is the P-38J, as I mentioned. It's at 4.7 battle rating, the same as the P-38L. It's very similar to the P-38L, except that the P-38L has the option, you have the option of researching the boosted ailerons, which gives it an incredibly insane roll rate. It's like just ridiculous how good those ailerons make how much they increase the roll rate for the P-38L. And the P-38L also has better performance at higher altitudes, like right around 9 kilometers. That's where its critical altitude is. But it's not as good in like the mid-range altitudes, like between 4 and 7 kilometers, like the P-38J is. And for that reason alone, for that mid-altitude performance, I think that the P-38J is the better plane, even though it has worse high-altitude performance, like up at around 8 and 9 kilometers altitude, and it has a little bit worse roll rate, well, a lot worse roll rate. It still has this little altitude band at around 7 kilometers where it is a little bit better of a plane, and that's a more accessible altitude, so I think that's, for that reason alone, the P-38J is a better plane. But both of them are very good, and they both do a pretty solid job of taking out enemy planes, as long as you know what you're doing with them, and you don't get hit. You cannot get hit by anything, usually. So, right now, yeah, I'm the last alive at this point, and I've just got a swarm of German planes buzzing around me, and I'm just trying to wait for one of them to make a mistake. Actually, there's one other friendly alive, because I remember that's how I get my first kill here in a second. So, I'm just waiting for one of them to make a mistake, to make an error, and until that happens, I can't really do much, because as soon as I commit to one of these guys, they just go straight for a dive, and they evade, and I can't chase them down to a low out. I can't chase them in a dive, because then that puts me out of position against the rest of the team. So I'm kind of just playing whack-a-mole at the moment. As they climb up, I just dive on one of them and force them down. Then I climb back up and wait for another one to climb back up, and I just repeat, just keep whack-a-moling them. But here goes one guy. He sees my friendly P-51 there. This is the last guy that's alive, and he kind of tunnel visions on him pretty hard, and I noticed that, and so I kind of roll over and dive down to close the gap on this guy. He doesn't even see me approaching him, and it's just a really easy shot. He's so tunnel visioned on this P-51. So, yeah, first kill right here, and I have my guns separated on different hotkeys, so I can fire my cannons by them, my cannon by itself, or the 450 cals by themselves, which is important, I think, when you're flying the P-38, because the 20mm cannon does alright, does pretty good by itself, and the 50 cals do pretty well by themselves. So if you can switch back and forth between them, firing only one set at a time, you can really conserve your ammo a lot better, because odds are they have different ballistics. You're not going to be hitting anything with both guns at the same time, or both types of guns. You'll be hitting with one or the other. So yeah, I try to use up my 20mm first, and then once they're gone, I start using up the 50 cals. So yeah, so now I'm back trying to wait for somebody to make a mistake here. I'm kind of hoping that my friendly P-51 will chip in here. He got me a kill earlier, so I can't really talk too much smack about him, because he did kind of help me get that first kill. But I would appreciate if you'd be a little bit more active in this fight, but you don't always get what you want. Here comes a TA 152. I go split second there for a head-on until I realize that he's going to be able to get his guns on me, and I just quickly, I don't want none of that. The guy has quite a few guns in his nose, bigger guns than me, and I don't want to risk it, so I let him go into a spiral climb, and at this altitude, 7 kilometers altitude is the sweet spot, really, for the P-38, and that's where it performs optimally, and these guys just can't really do anything to me. So I'm just kind of flying circles. I just keep it to the vertical, doing high yo-yos, spiral climbs, chandelles, those sort of things, and they just really can't follow me, especially these 190 Antons and these 109 Gustavs. There's just they just can't really do anything up here against the P-38J. Unfortunately for me, though, I also can't really do a whole lot with so many of them buzzing around. I've got to keep my head on a swivel, and as soon as I commit to one, I run the risk of putting myself in a poor position. So I'm kind of stuck in a stalemate here, unless these guys make mistakes. And for a lot of this fight, they do play it pretty smart. This TA 152 does eventually get the upper hand on my friendly P-51, and he just dives. He goes into a power dive and tries to outrun the TA, and in the end it doesn't work out for him. I can't follow him down there to help him, but he does drag that TA down out of the fight, at least for now, which makes fighting up here a little bit more difficult for me. That's one more that I don't have to deal with. Unfortunately, though, I lose my teammate, so now it's 1 versus their entire team, -2, pretty much. So I turn back around. I notice these guys flying back at me. I've got more than enough energy and performance to deal with these guys. This Dora, he flies right over the top of me, and instead of maintaining his energy or conserving it, he goes for this high G sort of almost split S maneuver. Not quite exactly a split S, it's more like a low yo-yo, I guess, which throws away a lot of his energy, which does me a favor. Not quite enough immediately that I can just go straight up in the air and drop back down on him, but enough that now I have an advantage and I can extend that advantage. I don't know exactly how the P-38J and the Dora compare at this altitude, but if I were to judge it off of this fight, I would say that the P-38J has a pretty significant advantage. That guy might not be spaded, he might be stock, so take that into consideration. But at least from what I can tell right here, the Dora is significantly outclassed at this altitude because I go for the spiral climb and he just can't follow it at all. I go straight up into the air out of that spiral climb, slow down, drop down on top of him. He goes for a climb here and just kind of floats right in front of me there, and I get a nice easy kill on him. So there you go. Those are the kind of mistakes that I need these guys to be making, where they kind of prop hang like that, or try to follow me up in a vertical maneuver, and those kind of errors I can capitalize on. So yeah, so that's another one down. This 109 here that I'm looking at, this guy's actually not bad. He's kind of passive, or not aggressive, I guess I should say, but he's smart because for the remainder of this fight, he kind of, I mean, he spends a lot of it just running away from me, but he's not stupid and doesn't, commit to like a head on or anything, and he does a good job of evading me, and I think he understands that he doesn't have to play aggressively to overcome me because he just has to bide his time. He's got friendlies up here to help him. He's more or less waiting for me to make a mistake. And on top of that, just his presence up here, the fact that he's just lingering and he's not really diving away or not throwing away his energy, it keeps me distracted, right? Like I can't commit to a lot of things just because I know that this guy's up here, and as soon as I do commit, he's going to be in a good position. So just him being up here and just him, just his presence makes it so that I can't necessarily be as aggressive as I would like to be, which in the end I think kind of helped his team significantly here. Here though, this 190A, I go for kind of a merge above him, I guess a merge. I kind of fly over the top of him, and I just don't have the speed as I do that to get my nose up so that I can climb up and then fall down on him, which would have made that shot a lot easier. Instead, I had to just roll over immediately and dive down on him, which kind of put me in a sort of semi-head-on type angle, which is kind of difficult for me to land. But I climb out of that attack, and he reverses back, and I'm thinking that I've got more than enough altitude, more than enough energy to sort of evade this guy. So I see him nose up to me, and I just fly straight. And thankfully, that wasn't a huge mistake. It could have been, because he got very close there to just nailing me with his cannons, and that would have been the end of me. But I took the risk, and it paid off pretty well, if ever so slightly. Because now I'm in a better position than I would have been if I would have tried to maneuver, or if I would have tried to dive to pick up speed. And I can just sort of roll down on top of this guy, and I get a pretty nice opportunity here. I get a crit into him. I crit his tail, which unfortunately means that I probably didn't do anything to him, and he actually sticks around for a long time, flying as if nothing happened. So that's kind of unfortunate. I really should have killed that guy there, but my aim was off just a little too much, and I couldn't really do anything. But I climb out of that fight, and you see that 109 over there. Like I said, he's just kind of lingering, and he saw me commit to that 190, and now then, like, I had an opportunity here to, this guy was prop hanging up at me. I could have caught him in a rope-a-dope type thing, but because I saw this 190 here, I couldn't risk, climbing up and stalling out with this guy right here. I would have been in a perfect position for him just to pluck me out of the sky. So unfortunately, I have to switch my focus to him, and unfortunately again, my aim lets me down, and I just can't end that guy. He was right there. I had a nice little deflection shot, and I just couldn't capitalize on it. But he zooms out, being smart still, conserving his energy, and just maintaining his presence up here. So I switch back to this 190 and try to press another attack on him. So I've got more than enough speed here to catch up with him, and he goes for an evasive maneuver that I know I'm not going to be able to pursue. So I just kind of let him go, And once again, Mr. 109 up here. I can't really press any sort of attack on that 190 right now because I have to deal with this 109. I'm just too worried that if as soon as I try to do something to this 190, this 109 is going to swoop in. And unfortunately, there's another guy who pops up here at about my altitude. Um, so I know that that other guy is really cautious. I know he's playing really cautious, so I'm not really super worried about him. This 190 though, I have no idea how he's gonna fly, so I switch to him. He goes for the head-on, and I avoid it with a few rolling maneuvers. The high-speed merge there, typical. This guy throws away a lot of energy to reverse back at me. Still though, not exactly enough that I can immediately reverse, so I go into kind of a shallow, well, kind of steep spiral climb, but more shallow than just straight up in the air to rope it open. Um, but this guy scares the piss out of me. He actually manages to land some freaking, I mean, really good shots there. And fortunately, it doesn't kill me, which surprises the hell out of me because my experiences with this thing have not been pleasant when those sort of things has happened. But he gives me a fuel leak, and other than that, nothing else. So I'm very thankful. Praise the Lord, right? But I still have to deal with him, and thankfully we're at this altitude here where the 190 Anton is kind of sputtering out, and I'm going to try to catch this guy in a rope-a-dope type thing. I've been able now to sort of extend my advantage against him up here. I'm just spiral climbing, basically. He hasn't been able to follow me. I dropped my landing flaps, and he sets himself up here for a nice kill. Alright, I should have killed him there, but I just can't quite get my nose on him. I overshoot, and notice he rolls to take me out in my overshoot. So I roll and kind of turn into him to make the shot a little bit more difficult. But I find myself stalled out here in that pesky 109. He's turned in to come and get me, so I have to immediately reverse back and towards him. Go for the high-speed merge, and he misses, thankfully, but he doesn't really do anything stupid, and he just zooms out of there. So I still kind of have to deal with him. That guy's just a thorn in my side, and I can't do anything about it, unfortunately. But I can do something about this 190. I go on with another spiral climb here. This guy's trying desperately to follow me, but his plane is, it's just sputtering out up here. Drop the landing flaps. The landing flaps in this plane, oh, they're godly. You drop those things at low speed, and you just will not stall, and you get some incredible maneuverability out of it. And that's what happens here. I just drop those flaps, turn my nose up, and then roll over down on this guy, and you can't do anything about it. I get a nice pilot snipe there. That's another one out. 3. How many more is that to go? Like 6? Unfortunately, though, that was a little bit too much for me there. I ended up throwing away just a little bit too much energy to get that guy. And on top of that, you know, there's like 2 or 3 other guys who've just been side climbing this whole time that I didn't even know they were there. And eventually here they're gonna pop up on the screen with an energy advantage over me, and that's gonna spell the end for me. So I'm gonna go ahead and let the rest of the video play out, but that's pretty much it for me for this match. I guess I can kind of ramble on about some final thoughts on the P-38. It's a good plane. It's a decent plane. If its damage model was fixed, this plane would be godly. If it would just be a very powerful plane. Unfortunately, with the way its damage model is, you can't take the kind of risks that you can like in the P-47, especially because the plane is just so easy to hit. You can't do the things like you can in the P-47 where you try to prop hang somebody, you try to rope a dope them. It's just so much more difficult because as soon as they even nick you, just the shock wave as the bullet flies past your wing, it like sets you on fire. mean, that's the kind of shit. I mean, that's an exaggeration, but it feels like that sometimes, um, which is unfortunate. One other thing that I didn't mention was the overheating, the thermodynamics model for the P38. It's not unmanageable. It's just very annoying, and especially when you know that realistically it shouldn't be anything like it is in game. It just overheats really quickly while wepping, and your temperatures get so high that if you don't keep up with it, they just become so much that you can't reduce them to safe temperatures by the time your engine detonates. Um, so most of the time you're flying at 100% or even less. If you heard me cutting my throttle in and out throughout this match, it's because I was trying to cool down. So yeah, there you go. The P38J. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you found it informative or at least entertaining. Let me know what you guys think, and I will catch you in the next one.